Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Fort Wayne Local Podcast. I'm your host, Jake McAfee. I'm joined by Jon Till. Jon, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Absolutely. So before I get started, I just want to remind everyone I have like 100 t-shirts. So if anybody wants a t-shirt, I will personally deliver it to you. So just let me know. But okay, so we're doing something a little bit different today with Veterans Day around the corner. Jon is a business owner. We're going to get into that, but I wanted to focus on his military service. So Jon was born and raised in Fort Wayne, went to Precious Blood and then Dwenger. You always got to give a shout out to the PB boys. My dad went there.
There you go.
And he now owns his own state farm agency. And in 2 days, he's actually celebrating 2 years. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, so give him a call if you need anything, home, auto, any other thing, anything else you want to say before we jump in on the military?
Yeah, one of the products that we're pretty passionate about in my agency as well as life insurance. And we find that a lot of people either are afraid of it because they don't know what it is or how it works exactly, and they also oftentimes think that it's too expensive, and that's not always the case. But those are the three main products that we focus on: is the home, the auto, and then the life insurance to protect your family. So
awesome. Okay. All right, so let's take it back. How did military first come into the picture? Is it something you'd always wanted to do, or is it something that just kind of sprung itself on you?
So it definitely sprung itself on me. It wasn't in the plans. I had planned on going to college most of my high school career, and but I didn't really like school. I never truly have really liked school. And so I went the college route first, and again, because I didn't like school, I didn't do well at it in the beginning. And so I started doing some craft jobs. I did some commercial roofing, night manager at Coney Island. And what really pushed me into it was a roommate of mine after high school that was joining the Marine Corps, and talked a lot about it, and we were really good friends and still are. And so I said, you know what, I'll go ahead, I'll join with you. We were going to do the buddy program and go to boot camp together. And about 2 months prior to when we were getting ready to leave, because we were both signed up, he got injured and got put on a 6-month medical, not probation, but he couldn't join for 6 months because of a medical injury that he had. And in that time, he decided to go to the Air Force instead of the Marine Corps. So here I am signed up on my own, and just kind of went for it. So.
Okay, and why the Marines over the other branches? Just because that's what your buddy was going to do, or?
At first, yeah, it was a lot of it because that's what he wanted to do. And then he tried to, of course, when he went to the Air Force, he tried to drag me along. But I've always kind of liked to challenge myself, and the Marines are the biggest and the baddest. Well, they're the smallest as far as the few and the proud, but as far as pound for pound, the biggest and the baddest fighting force in the world. So that was a pretty easy decision for me to want to be a part of that organization.
And so, if I'm correct, this was in 2003, right?
Yep. I joined September 24th of 2003 was when I went in.
And just so everyone knows, that was when the Iraqi war had just started. What were your thoughts going into that? Were you concerned about that, or were you ready to go and serve your country?
Yeah, I wasn't really afraid of it. I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking, but I wasn't too scared to go and do that. It was 9/11 was a pretty patriotic time that we brought the country together, and yeah, for me it didn't make it any harder to join because of it. I think it actually fueled me wanting to do it a little bit more.
Okay, see, that's why we need you guys, because I'd be horrified. Kind of a side note, how do you feel if somebody just randomly approaches you and says thank you for your service? Is that something that people enjoy? Because I don't want to sound like corny if I say it, but I am super appreciative when people do it.
No, it's definitely, I thank people for thanking me, because some people just won't. And in the past, people wouldn't thank people for their service. It was almost frowned upon if you served, going back to the Vietnam War or some of those other wars. So I just tell people thank you when they thank me for my service. And it does make me feel good, and I say it to other service members as well. So I wouldn't say that it's an awkward feeling at all. Most military people are proud of their service and would be grateful for a thank you for your service.
Okay, that's good for me to hear, because I always try to be like not the keyboard warrior who like just says things and does nothing. So I don't want to, but I think that answered it. I'll definitely be more forthcoming with it, because I am very thankful. Like I live a pretty charmed life, and I know, who protects that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so where was basic training?
San Diego, California, 13 weeks.
Oh, and what was it like going through basic training?
Um, so it's kind of corny, but I'd watched Full Metal Jacket many times before joining, and it gives a pretty accurate depiction of what Marine Corps boot camp is like. So I had a little bit of an idea of what to expect, but it was hard. I mean, they push you mentally, physically, and their whole plan when you get there is to break you down in order to build you back up, and they do. And it's they truly are making men at the Marine Corps recruit depots.
And was it harder than you thought? Like once you got into it, you were like, whoa, like I thought I was tough and this is harder, or was it kind of what you expected and you're just ready to go?
Um, it was probably a little bit harder. I would say probably harder mentally than it was physically. And that's the part that they kind of push on you, is that you've got to be mentally tough, because if you're not mentally tough, it doesn't matter how strong you are.
That's good. Absolutely. Um, okay. And then what about your fellow new Marines? Was there like a lot of camaraderie, or were people competitive, or what was kind of the vibe like with the people you're going through it with?
Yeah, so it was both. There's different platoons. So we had 82 Marines in our platoon, and I believe in our company at the time there was 7 total platoons going through training at the same time. And so you're supportive among your own platoon, because there's awards and there's challenges and there's competition and things like that. So you're competitive against other platoons, you're competitive within your platoon, and you're supportive across all boundaries too, because they also teach you that all Marines are brothers and sisters, and we're in this together. So it's a support them along, but you still want to beat them, right? Like,
Yeah.
who doesn't want to win? So
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying not to say absolutely. That's been some feedback, and I say that too much. So I'm trying to catch myself there.
you want me to pick it up for you?
Yeah, if you could just go ahead. Did you ever have any moments of self-doubt, or where you thought maybe this isn't for me?
um Honestly, no. I was pretty well mentally prepared to go and do the basic training. I mean, it was I just had the mindset that I'm gonna do this, and you just do it. So I never really had any self-doubt during that time. Um, I would say I maybe thrived a little bit through boot camp, because I liked the structure of it. I liked the discipline that it was teaching me, and um, I just felt like I was becoming a better person while I was there. So it wasn't self-doubt. It was reassuring, if anything.
That's great. So you saw the vision. What would you tell someone who is about to join, or maybe has just joined, is going through it? Like, what's some advice that you would give somebody?
Keep a positive attitude. That's the most important thing, is to stay positive. If you don't have a positive attitude, or if you have that self-doubt, that's where people start to fail. And um, granted, your brothers and sisters will pick you up and help you through something like that. But um, if you have an idea of what to expect, and you stay positive, and just look forward instead of looking back at maybe some problems or some issues that you had. Obviously, try to learn from those, but just look forward and do the best you can going forward, and push yourself. If you're not out of your comfort zone, you're not growing. And it's positive attitude, and push yourself harder, get out of your comfort zone, and you'll be fine. But it's truly a mindset more than anything.
It kind of sounds like it mirrors business. I mean, everything that you're saying right now are basically the same things that I tell both myself and anyone who's looking to join the team. It's,
Yep.
get outside your comfort zone. And if, I talk about when we're cold calling, if you, you make a mistake, or you have a super awkward conversation, it's like, hey, on to the next one. Don't, like you said, don't look back. So it sounds like
Yeah.
it maybe set you up for what you're doing now.
Yeah, quite a bit. And that's the thing about it is if you dwell on what happened, then you're just wasting time on what you could do in the future. And I see a lot of people get down that rabbit hole of dwelling on the past instead of focusing on the future. But
Okay, and then after basic training, where were you stationed then?
so I did my A school in Camp Johnson, which is about 5 miles south of Camp Lejeune out in North Carolina. It's just a small little training camp. And then after that, I got stationed in Camp Lejeune, so it was a nice 5 mile drive to my new duty station. Um, and I was in Lejeune for about 2 years. Um, I think I'm trying to think of the date that I arrived, but in the 2 years there, I did a tour in Iraq in 2005, and then got back from Iraq and decided to go to Marine Security Guard School in Quantico, Virginia, and then I was stationed in Rome, Italy, guarding our U.S. Embassy for a year. That was an awesome post, and then came back and finished my 4 years in Quantico.
Okay, and when you're in Iraq, like what is your day to day like?
So it varies greatly between based off of what job you're doing. My job was I was a 3432 dispersing technician was our actual title, which when you're in mainland, in the U.S. at your base, you're basically working on pay claims and travel claims, making sure that everybody gets paid on time, and people who are traveling get their temporary duty pay or whatever that is. In Iraq, we serve a completely different purpose, and part of it is we basically set up a manned ATM window. So I had lance corporals that would basically sit in front of a window all day waiting for somebody to come up and take cash out of their next paycheck. Or if you're a civilian working overseas, we would cash checks for them. So they write us a personal check, we'd give them cash in exchange, because everything on base was done on a cash basis, overseas at least. So we not only did the ATM window, if you will, but we paid contracts. So if, let's say we're rebuilding a school or a church or something that maybe was destroyed during the war, or we're doing it to try to build a community back up, we would either go out on a patrol or a convoy and go see maybe a sheik or whoever the contractor was, and we'd pay them in cash, American dollars, to rebuild, whether it's a school, hospital, libraries, all kinds of things like that. And so that was kind of the risky, fun part of the job when you were in Iraq. And I mean, you're outside the wires and you're definitely at risk. So it gets your blood pumping a little bit. And then another thing we would do is a interesting fact here. If we killed a family member of a Iraqi person and they could prove that that person was not an insurgent fighting against us, we paid that family $2,500 American cash. So that was kind of like the casualty of war payment was 2,500, which doesn't seem like much to us, but in their currency at the time it was over 3 million dinar. So
Whoa.
the conversion at the time was about 700 US dollars was 1 million dinar. And so at 2,500 bucks, you're getting almost 3.5 million dinar, which would go a long way. And it was a lot of money to them.
So what were those exchanges like? If I don't know if you mind me asking that, but was it pretty tense, or were they, upset with you, or how was that?
Um, it just depended on the situation. Oftentimes,
Hmm.
I mean, they were somewhat happy to be getting something, but they did lose a loved one. So,
Hmm.
it's mixed emotions.
Yeah. So what do you miss most about your time when you were overseas, whether it was Rome or, well, I guess there's probably different things you missed there, but just whether it was Iraq or Rome, like what do you miss the most about your time when you were serving?
um, I mean, Rome was pretty awesome. We had a lot of liberty to go out and explore, and um, we used to run PT weekly around the Coliseum, so that was a pretty cool thing. Um, but just I'd say the one thing that I probably miss the most is the other Marines, that my my brothers that I served with. We had good camaraderie and we did everything together. So it wasn't like the 9 to 5 that you often have here. I also didn't have a family at the time, so I was able to go and do a whole lot more without any um, any thoughts about it. But not that that's a bad thing. Obviously, love
No,
my
no,
family, but
I hear
but
you. I hear you.
but my Marine brothers were my family at the time, and we did everything together, whether it was going to the beach or going on a road trip or just hanging out at the barracks or playing video games. We had a lot of fun, and it was a small family. So
I'm sure it was
that's
a
what I
lot of
miss the
book
most.
club. Was it a lot of book club and just knitting and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
So Marines aren't really good at reading books, most of them. Or maybe we just don't enjoy it. We'd rather go blow something up or dig a hole. But yeah, I've probably read maybe 2 books the whole time I was in it. It was probably forced, if I was being honest.
And what do you miss the least?
Um, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that. What do I miss the least?
I know you want to be PC about it, obviously, but I'm sure
Yeah,
there's some
but
things that probably weren't great.
so one of the things, and a lot of people probably appreciate this, but the thing I probably miss the least is bad leadership. Not that you don't get that in civilian world, but a lot of times in the civilian world, your promotions are based on merit and experience, and sometimes and oftentimes in the Marine Corps too, you'll have people or any branch of service. If you stay in long enough, you will get promoted just based on how long you've been there. And so you'll have some leaders that maybe shouldn't be, but just due to being there for 10, 12 years, they've got more rank than you do, and you have to, for the most part, as long as it's not going to cost somebody their life or it's not immoral or unethical, you got to listen to what they say, whether it's pick up those cigarette butts or that they just threw down, which doesn't happen often, but there's just some bad leadership, because if you stay in long enough, you'll get there. And that's probably the thing I miss the least. And again, that happens in the civilian world too. But that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back on why I got out and didn't continue my service, was a couple of bad leaders back to back that had been in double the time I was and had one rank higher than me,
Mm-hmm.
or in some cases 3 to 4 times as long as I had, and had one rank higher than me. And it's like, okay, I got to listen to this guy. He doesn't even have a clue what he's doing. But uh, that's what the thing. You probably have to edit that out because that was drawn out, but part of it at
No,
least.
no, that was great, man. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I've heard that before. Are you familiar with Jocko Willink? He has his own podcast.
I think I've heard of him, but I haven't watched it.
He's a scary human, but he talked about his time, and he had part of his growth, he said, was like almost kind of learning to manage his manager, if you will.
Yeah.
Where when he was younger and a hothead, he was like, screw this guy, he's an idiot. And then as he grew, he learned how to deal with that, just like we all do.
Yep.
So what would you do differently if you had it to do all over again? What's something that you would do different now that you're a wise, mature man that you are?
What would I do differently? I don't know. I would have maybe looked at, after getting out, and obviously my biggest key when I got out was, I'm going to go into the civilian world where people get promoted on merit and jobs on merit and experience and things like that. I probably would have stayed in, to be honest. I
Really?
did miss it a little bit, and if you think about it now, if I joined in 2003, in 3 years, I'd have a full retirement and could get out and start a new career. But not to say that I don't like where I am now. I love my life, and I have, you know, probably wouldn't have met my wife if I had done that and had the kids that I have. Things would be completely different, and I love all of that. But um, the thought of being able to retire in a few years, or or something like that, and then build a second career after that is kind of enticing. But I probably would have stayed in. I did enjoy most of what I did, and I made a decision based off of a couple of bad characters.
Sure. Okay. And then speaking of, transitioning, once your service obligation was over, was there programs to help you kind of make the transition to civilian life, or is it just like you're done and go figure it out?
Yeah, so they do a couple of weeks of separation training, and I honestly, there's a name for it, and I couldn't tell you what it is because I've been out now for 13 years. But there is a program that they put you through, and it's like how to look for jobs, how to transition back into civilian life, and you know, I honestly, I just don't remember a lot of what it was, but there is a program out there, and I had I had set myself up prior to getting out. So I was enrolled in college before I came home. I had a place to live before I came home. Um, and I think some people just, you get so used to things being taken care of for you, being taken care of, instead of having to take care of them on your own. Like when you get to a base, you're told where you're going to go live. It's pretty simple. You don't have to go and scope it out unless you have a family and you're buying a house or something like that off base. But I never did that. I just lived on base in the barracks, and yeah, you show up and they say go to room 111. Okay, you don't have to plan a whole lot on much because they do a lot of it for you. Whereas obviously getting out, you've got to take care of all that. So um, yeah.
Okay. And then were there any struggles that you dealt with making the transition? I mean, it seems like you kind of touched on it, just having to think of some things that maybe you previously hadn't. But was there anything else like mentally struggling, or were you pretty much just ready since you had that experience? You were just ready to be done.
Um, I don't think I struggled too much. I know a lot of people do when they get out, but
Hmm.
I moved back to my comfort zone. I moved back to Fort Wayne where my family and my friends all were. And so I kind of just transitioned from one family to another. And I think a lot of times people either don't have a support system back home that they can go and rely on, or they don't plan well, and that's where they struggle. And a lot of that could have to do with the separation process not helping them plan as well as they could. But um, I don't think I really had too many struggles, or if I did, I don't remember them now, I guess. Part of
I
that
gotcha.
forward
That's
thinking
good.
mentality.
That's good, man. I mean, I know you, and you don't really seem like the overthink type of guy. You kind of just live your life and keep it moving forward. But what advice would you give someone who's about to make the transition or is in the process of transitioning right now and maybe struggling a little bit?
Yeah, I would say ask a lot of questions. There are some resources out there available for you. VA hospital, if you go in there, like a liaison that will help you get through some stuff. There's some other veteran support services around. If you just get on the computer and look it up, there's quite a few places out there that can help. And I guess at the end of the day, if you're needing help with something, give me a call. I'd be happy to help. You can reach me at my office at any time. That's one of the things that starting this business was a key for me, was to be able to spend more time and things outside of the office eventually, once I got everything up and running like a smooth machine, to help veterans, and especially transitioning veterans, or veterans who've maybe fallen on hard times. And so if anybody is listening and is having a problem transitioning, or is in the process and just doesn't know exactly where to go next, or just wants to talk, give me a call. My office is readily available. We're open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and my team will get you in touch with me one way or the other.
That's great, man. That's great. Okay. Well, I end every interview with the same question. What's your favorite thing about living in Fort Wayne?
Oh, favorite thing about living in Fort Wayne. I should have prepared better for this, because it's on my
From the
list.
heart. Just go from the heart,
Um,
man.
um, for me, it's all about family and friends, and this is where I grew up. This is where my core is. So That's what made it easy for me to come back. I know quite a few people that when they get into the Marine Corps or even any branch of service, they end up staying where they were stationed or going somewhere else, and they use it as an escape. But um, I'm very close with my family, my wife's family, and I have a core group of friends that, from PB and Dwenger, that's my favorite thing about Fort Wayne is I know that if I'm ever in a pinch for anything, I've got a network of people that I can rely on that somewhere out there somebody's going to help me, and that's my favorite thing.
Okay, that's great. Everyone knows, I'm a huge fan. So I just want to give people an opportunity to say it, so I don't have to. All right. Well, how can people learn more about you? Whether they need insurance or they're looking to get into the business and maybe work with you, how can they contact you?
So my website is pretty hard to get to. It's jontill.com. Jon, no H, so JONTILL.com. Or if you just search Jon Till State Farm on a Google search, I should come up pretty quickly. And our phone number is on the website, but I'll give it to you here too. Is 260-486-4711. I've got a great team, so they probably will schedule an appointment for me to call you back if you do reach out to the office. And we put those on the calendar so that I don't miss them. And I try very hard to be on time for all those appointments. But occasionally something runs over, but that's how you get a hold of me best is jontill.com or the phone number, which you can find on the website. And our office is Northeast Fort Wayne on Stillhorn Road near Maple Crest, right by the Target there. So feel free to stop in as well.
Absolutely. And Jon, yeah, you're a great guy. I've known you for a long time. It's been awesome reconnecting with you.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this, and thank you for your service, and also thank you for sharing this, what you went through in your journey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jake. It's an honor and a privilege.
All right. See ya.
Take care, buddy.